I'm going to show you a really simple way to build a backyard patio pond. I bought this kind of plant pot barrel from Bunnings. I also got these $2 terracotta pots, which I'm going to use as stands to raise the plants in this water pond. This allows it to become a little bit more modular, and you can kind of like dabble with it, take plants in and out, and keep it looking fresh all the time. Look at that already. Goes along well with that cool plant on my left. I'm placing this right near where my PowerPoint box is so that I can ensure that the water filter that I'm going to put in is going to be very close to the power source. I bought this bag of river pebbles, mainly because it's going to give it a bit more of a freshwater look to it. Often with river pebbles, I like to clean the pebbles by placing a hose inside the bag. That way it gets rid of unnecessary sediment that might cloud up the water. Now what I'm going to do is place these at the bottom just so that the fish have places to kind of look for food as it drops to the bottom, and also it kind of keeps a natural look to it when you're looking down into the actual pond. As you notice, I'm placing them kind of around and ensuring that there are some grooves. The plants I'm going to place in my pot are going to come directly from my double-end pond. Look how glorious it looks. I really like how everything's growing really neatly. I'm going to turn on the water and slowly fill up my pond. Don't look at this, guys. This is probably not the best way to set that up. And I've got this automatic water tap that will run, and leaving it on low pressure, I will start to fill up this bucket. I've already tested it to make sure that it doesn't leak. There are no holes at the bottom of this barrel bucket, so it should work really well. Now I'm slowly filling it up and making sure that everything doesn't get disturbed, and so the water stays nice and crystal clear, just the way I like it. I've also got some aquatic plants that I got from my local plants shop. And these plants actually already grow in my garden so beautifully. So I'm going to take some of this from my other pond as well. It's kind of like taken over, actually. Look how cool it looks. And I'm going to place it in here. You can kind of start seeing how this might come together. Oh, I love the pink coloration of the leaves here. I really love using this terracotta technique because what it means is everything stays contained. And in my bigger ponds, I've often found that things overgrow. Once I tried pulling out one of my plants, it had grown so invasively into the actual pond itself, it actually ruined some of the pond liner. So I'm keeping them kind of contained in these terracotta pots, just like this curly corkscrew plant. So I can kind of change it depending on the season, where the plants need more or less light, depending on kind of how much light there is in the day. I'm kind of just arranging them at the moment just to kind of give it a look. I kind of like this messy kind of look from this corkscrew plant. At first, I didn't really know that these existed until I actually saw it in the shop. I'm like, I gotta have that. And I kind of like how it kind of looks like it's just going everywhere. So I'm going to try and think of a more natural way to lay these out. That's why I'm testing it. Kind of like the orientation right now. It's not quite finished, but I've placed some duckweed. Yes, the very, very high, fast-producing duckweed, and the idea is to put a nice green layering to the water. I've got this big sponge filter, as I said, connected very close to where my outdoor power point is, and I've got a very big pump, very cheap to buy if you go to your local aquarium. And it's going to sit right here. Later on, you'll see that I've actually moved it to the other side, away from the power point. And there it is. Look at it bubble. Very oxygenated water. The fish that are going to go in this pond are really going to love just how cool and balanced the water is going to be. I love how the duckweed is at the moment. It's kind of sprinkled, but the idea is to get this nice green consistent duckweed layer on top, just so it kind of contrasts and offsets the pictures. Now I'm picking up some mountain cloud minnows from my pond. They actually bred last summer and the babies have started to grow up. I've put them in this white container just so you can see how big they've actually become. And I love minnows because they actually are cold resistant. And by growing them in ponds, there's actually a lot more nutrients that they can feed off. All right, in they go. Oh, look at that. Oh, all right, now this is a little bit of a test run to see how they go. I'm now using some leftover driftwood just to give it a little bit more of an architectural interest. I'm just kind of experimenting with how it looks. Kind of like the idea of having a bridge just in case like a frog comes along and it wants to climb in or climb out. I got to make sure there's ways for it to kind of get into the pondscape and all. I really like the idea of having a patio pond just because it just gives that extra dimension, and the flow of water feels relaxing when you hear the bubbling and the trickling, on a summer's afternoon as you're sculling down a glass of kombucha. So it's been about 3 weeks, and let's check in with how this pot pond is doing. Got some good news actually. Underneath the surface of all of these floating plants, the spiraling corkscrew plant is growing well. This one is growing superbly well too. Some good coloration. And these kind of floating duckweed kind of adds a nice contrast to the surface. Now, I've got these in ceramic pots so that if I do ever want to change these plants, I can lift them up, take them out, and underneath it's been very cold recently. Surprisingly, the mountain cloud minnows have actually survived. The temperature's been about like 2 or 3 degrees at night, and every single minnow in this kind of patio pond setup has done really well. I think eventually I'd kind of like some sort of greenery background here, but at the moment I'm pretty happy for a $77 like Bunnings build, and yeah, I look forward to tweaking it a little bit more in the future. It's doing pretty well, so good. Looking so lush.